The simple-minded and the uninformed can be easily led astray. And those that cannot connect the dots, hey, look the other way. People believe what they want to believe when it makes no sense at all.
My one argument.
You never win those arguments.
9 o'clock, time to start. We'll open with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we just come this morning. We just thank you for this time of year as we see the changing leaves, the beautiful colors. We're just reminded of your power and your love and grace to us. We just thank you. We just pray for this gathering today that you would be with us and guide our thoughts. We just pray this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rule of agenda.
Mr. Chairman, one thing of note on the agenda. When we published the agenda at about 7 in the morning, a couple hours later on Monday, Linda pointed out that we didn't have item H, consideration and approval of resolution 021-2020, loan grant for engineering project on the lane. And as a matter of, I know it was about 2 hours later because you were in the office with me. And so we added it at that time. So that would not be the full amount of time as required. And so would ask legal counsel what we need to do about that, either drop it or what.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, we want to make sure that certainly everyone has the full and fair opportunity to, to attend the meeting and have 72 hours notice. And I would suggest that if we're here at 11 o'clock and we can address that item, that would have been well past 72 hours. If we're going to deal with technicalities then.
Thank you. Just want to make sure we're above board on everything. Thank you, Keith, for pointing that out. So I have no anything else that's added will be in my report.
Mr. Chairman, if everybody's good with the agenda, I'll make a motion that we pass the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the minutes. Motion passes.
On the minutes, and this is totally on me from August because I made the motion to approve them, but when I read the minutes in the paper, I realized that I should have made one correction under the contract for the emergency manager. I voted no for it, and it was listed as I voted yes. But can't change that because we've already approved those minutes. I will read them closer next time. For the October 12th minutes, under department reports, manager reports, it says contact our senator's office concerning rivers of the west. That should be wild and scenic rivers. That's all I have on that one. On the September 26th minutes, under department reports, request clarification for Nelson Garber. It should be Nelson Shirley. Shirley. Like Shirley Temple? Nelson.
Okay, good, thank you.
And we are meeting with the Interior Department, not the Commerce Secretary, correct?
Yeah, that's what I thought after.
Yeah,
After I typed that, I thought, because I had commerce in my notes, I thought it was interior.
Yeah, it's interior.
And then It says panning meetings with senator instead of planning meetings, so that's just a spell.
Although that might be appropriate.
And those were the only corrections that I have for the September 12th and 26th minutes.
Where is Nelson?
It's in the 26th, and both of them are under department reports.
Where was Nelson in 25?
It's on the 26th meeting, under manager's report. Requested clarification, unless I have a different set of minutes. Mine say Nelson Garber,
It
not
does.
Nelson Sterling.
It does, there it is, surely. And then interior department, and what was the other one?
And it's planning, should
Planning,
be
not
planning.
planning, not gonna plan it, we're gonna plan it, okay. And does anybody know who Joan is? Because I don't know her last name. And public comments, does everybody know who the Joan that was here last time spoke about the cell phone issue?
Cartalis. I'll spell it,
Thank you.
Cartales.
Cartalis, okay, thank you. I'll put that in there. Thank you.
I don't have any other corrections.
Any for you, buddy?
No.
I move to approve both sets of minutes from the 12th and the 26th with the stated corrections.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve both minutes for September 12th and September 29th with corrections Anita stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, come to the public comment period. Anyone from the public can speak about whatever they would like. Give you 2-3 minutes to speak. If you'd like to, please state your name for the record. Anybody?
My name is Don Morris, and again, going to harp on the cell tower issue. My wife called the FCC to complain about the coverage, and they indicated that it was not their jurisdiction to do anything about it, that it's actually, and this is what they said, that local government has to make their wishes known, local and state governments make their wishes known, and that's what generates action. And,
I've already done that
Well-
with Verizon more than once.
And I'm just reporting what they said, I don't, and, so that's one issue. And then I was hoping the Forest Service would be here today, because again, information is so hard to come by, but the rumor and speculation is that Verizon actually has acquired land within the village to put a tower, but they can't put it there until there's a relay tower on Luna Mountain, and that it's hung up on approval through the Forest Service. And again, I can't verify any of this because information is so hard to come by, but someone from the Forest Service, I believe the Glenwood station, was here last time, and they, promised to look into it and get back, but, I don't know. I don't know how to bring more pressure to bear. And the only tower within the reserve area is a 3G tower, and that goes away December 31st. It no longer exists. And so we have no idea whether that tower will be upgraded to a 4G tower or whether we'll just be without. So it's concerning. Don Morris, M-O-R-R-I-S. Anyway, thank you.
So do we need, I guess we could do a resolution. But I understand the concern. Half the time you can't even text out of this town.
And Berkeley Road, I have 4 bars. I have never had 4 bars in Catherine County in the last 5 years, but I had 4 bars for at least 10 miles. So,
I know I know American Towers has a tower on Fox Mountain that's not being used by anybody. But, and maybe their rent is too high or something, but, I really do think there's some answers. I think they don't pay attention to us because of our population.
AT&T is about to put a tower out on Salt Lake Road.
Well, and they put one in Hightown too, but that doesn't help us down
That doesn't
here.
help us down, exactly.
and it doesn't help us unless Verizon puts the tower up.
Right, exactly.
AT&T's putting 4 towers up in Calhoun County. There's one in the Glenwood area, there's the one at Pinetown, there's one out towards Red Hill, I believe, and I'm not sure where the other one is, but I have
I
that
heard talking
guy's,
of going in Aragon.
Aragon, I have that guy's contact information, Bill, if you want
I'll switch
it.
to AT&T to put one there.
And, well, I thought AT&T has merged with Verizon anyway. I mean, Verizon comes off of AT&T's towers.
Their tower in
So-
Highland didn't help me any.
Huh.
As of right now, it doesn't. They may be merged in
Because
some
I know
way,
I'm with
but,
Verizon, when I pay my bill, it
their
goes to
signals,
AT&T.
but their signals are separate.
Yeah.
Part of the monopoly
Mhm.
deal. And as far as like the AT&T, I know it in Pytown, people that are traveling through and staying in Pytown have 4G, so I don't know why.
I was there the other day, I had one bar.
It doesn't, my Verizon doesn't work. in
Verizon
Hightown.
will work with the AT&T one, but the AT&T has better service. So, I'll have to print this stuff out. I got a bunch of information on
Would it help to do a
FCC and whatnot, but we can discuss this.
Any other comments?
My name is Amanda Cox, and I have been talking with Verizon for several years to get a tower. And right now it's a third-party tower here in town, and it's the worst. Anytime it's down, I have to contact a company in Georgia about it. And I've been trying. They've actually gave us money for the land lease up there. And we're just not on the build schedule because we're not important out here.
I know
We
that,
tried to get something.
Well, when you tell somebody, I'm gonna bring 1,000 voters.
Pretty nice.
Just tell them you're gonna switch areas.
there are 2 bills, and I don't know if I have a copy of those. There are 2 bills that are, I don't have them, that, I think it's Udall's office is trying to get passed. There's something about, and this deals with Wi-Fi, which is different from the cell signal. But when they look at the coverage and they see that one person has DSL in our land mass and our population, then they can turn into the FCC that they provide Wi-Fi for the area in Casper County because one person has DSL, which the DSL is gonna be in the towns and not on the other dirt roads. They're trying to change that, but the last I heard from Udall's office is they're trying to find more senators and congressmen to sign on to it. I'll have to get the bill, I thought I brought it with me. There's 2 bills, there's one in the House and one in the Senate. And if they can get that passed, it might help us, but.
Well, we'll prepare a resolution for November. See if we can send that out and if it does anything.
Yes.
My name is Carla Schmieder. I'm in Glenwood. I own 2 businesses in Glenwood. I thought I was on the agenda, but I don't see me. Am I to be in public comments about the lodger's tax?
Yeah, I said you could do public comment and that it would be on the agenda in November, and I told your husband that yesterday.
Oh, well, I've been out of town, so I came back in town and came in. Anyway, so, kind of inconvenient. But I guess I'm upset that the lodger's taxes once again revealed itself. I don't really understand the purpose of the lodger's tax for this community because the lodger's tax specifically is supposed to be used for advertisement and promoting the county. And I don't know if any of you have marketing experience that I should pay money to you to market my business that I think I already market myself. I mean, in the county, some of the things that the community markets themselves, we have a calendar that people advertise on. We have a map of our area which people advertise on, I spend money on. We advertise on the radio for things like our 4th of July and our cowbells dinners, and we're getting ready to have trunk or treat, which benefits the 4th of July, which the county contributes nothing to. We have the Ranch Rodeo, which the county contributed nothing to. And so our community already promotes, as does Pie Town. I know they promote their Pie Festival. I don't think the county contributes to that very much. I personally have yet to ever meet the sheriff, and I've been here for 5 years operating a business in Glenwood, so I don't even know what he looks like or who he is. So the police protection is rather limited. In fact, the state police came and gave a little talk to the folks of Glenwood and said, if somebody breaks into your house, you're pretty much on your own because they won't get police protection, which is true. And so another tax on my guests would limit their ability to go and spend money in the various other small businesses that still exist in Glenwood, which aren't very many. So I assume the other towns around Catron County are probably in the same boat as we are. People have a limited amount of expendable income, and I'd rather they be spending it in the Utter Delight or the Alma Grill or my store than spending it on the county, which then in turn goes through a bureaucracy and eventually may end up in an ad somewhere. And so I guess I thought there was going to be more give and take, which is why I drove the 45 minutes to come up here. But since I'm just in public comment and can get no response, I guess I'll be back next month. But this is, I guess I hear the argument all the time that it doesn't impact you. It's not going to affect you. You don't pay it. Well, yes, I do, because I own another business that my customers could go spend money. And so do other people in town. And all that impacts. If you go on a vacation somewhere and want to go visit Disney World, if you have to spend 10% more or 8% more on your hotel in a tax, that's going to impact what you can spend somewhere else. So you're wrong when you say it doesn't impact anything else, because it does. And I'm just looking out for the other businesses, not necessarily the Los Alamos Lodge, but other places where people could spend their money. And you're wanting to take that money and spend it. The lodger's tax is very limited in what you can spend it on. I mean, I guess you could make some stuff up and say you're going to spend it on something fantastic, but it's supposed to advertise the county. And my contention is businesses like mine and the others in Glenwood, and I know Pie Town, I don't know many of the other businesses around, but we advertise our money how we want to advertise our money. Shouldn't be advertised by you. I just don't think any of you probably have much marketing experience. I know I don't, but I know what works for my business. And I would contend that you probably don't. So that's my piece here.
Anybody else?
Well, okay, I got one more thing. It's not the lodger's tax. I also brought up, recently a survey was done on my property that showed that the old fire station in Glenwood actually sits 9 feet on my property. So I'm going to have to figure out, we're going to have to figure out that I've been paying taxes on that property for quite a while. And it's been registered. Daryl Allred just recently surveyed his property. We share a property line, and he's the one who, the surveyor, found out while redoing that the old firehouse sits on my property. So I'm gonna bring that up for discussion, and hopefully we can come up with something, because I've been paying taxes on that property for the last 5 years. So,
The firehouse, any county property is exempt from taxes, so.
well, it still sits on my property, so, that's probably not okay.
Since that is a real estate item, that is actually up for discussion in executive session.
But I wouldn't be included in the executive
Right.
session, correct?
Then it'll be brought up later. But I just wanted you to know, it wasn't being pushed to the back burner.
So when will I hear anything as a result of it, or is it just, how does that get
Imagine whatever-
disseminated?
However they direct me.
Meanwhile, that firehouse just sits empty, and if the county needs money, hello, sell it. That's it.
Any other comments? We will move on
Mr. Chairman, I have two comments. Well, actually, now, since Carla mentioned, I have three. I have an update from the Freedom Ordinance. I did, like you, I haven't had a chance to meet with Ian yet, but Rose and I did sit down with Judge Atwood and discuss the ordinance with him, and he said, no problem. I said, punch some holes in it, like I asked Adrian to do. He said, there are no holes in it. He said, this is perfect. And I said, well, do you have any heartache about common law jury rather than your administrative courts? He said, I got no problem with that at all. He said, I've been waiting since 20 years for somebody to bring one of these ordinances to my court. He said, yes, I can impanel a jury, I can do everything. So he's 100% on board with the ordinance. Now, I haven't been able to get an audience with Ian yet to see where he's at, but Judge Atwood is definitely on our side. As far as what Carla was mentioning about the promotion, see, we do that for free on CatronCounty.org. You know, you're listed there for free. You know, I mean, it doesn't cost any of our businesses in this county anything to advertise online with CatronCountyNews.org. We do that for free. The third thing, I was graced by the Creator with the opportunity to see some of the finest EMT actions that you have ever seen. There was a lady broke her leg up Mineral Creek, and Rose got the first part of the gathering of the services, and then I got the second part. I went up the canyon and got some really fantastic footage, and I wanted to pass this to the board because would you mind passing this on, Keith? Before I got this up, I had a problem with my internet getting some things up. And I received a call ostensibly from a sergeant in Socorro that said that, you know, please don't show James Hammond in this because he was not in full uniform. So I don't know that this was a real person. When I tried to return the call, the answer, there was no number. So I don't know if this is a true concern with anybody or whether it's just a problem. This gentleman may know. Gotcha.
There you go.
And I saved one for you. Are you with the state patrol?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, good. I was just talking about you behind your back. I didn't know you were here. Did you hear anything about the rescue operation up Mineral Creek?
I did not, but I've actually been out on vacation, so.
Okay, so whatever it wasn't your fault.
Okay.
Okay,
So
never mind.
That would be a sidebar conversation with you guys later.
Okay, but the thing is, I'm going to publish this, and I don't want to do it if the board thinks it's a bad idea. But this shows the heroism of the people that serve this county for very little money or for free. And I really think it should be out there where people can see it and appreciate what these people do.
Well, I don't think there's gonna be a problem here, you can talk to him about that.
Okay, well, as long as you don't have a problem, then I'm going with it. Thank you all.
I guess my only concern would be if you're filling the patient, or whatever, are you violating any HIPAA? That would be the concern.
No,
there.
she was a volunteer. She was,
patient is a
yes,
volunteer?
ma'am. She was, wait till you see it. Maybe you want this final one.
Permission.
Maybe you want this final one.
We had her permission.
Okay, that would be my only concern, is that you're violating some kind of a HIPAA act.
Yeah, both of the lady EMTs mentioned, don't film the patient, but her and I had been talking all the way down the valley, all the way down the canyon. So she was pretty happy about being pulled out of there. And talk about, some heroic action. These people were phenomenal. And I think it ought to be spread worldwide.
All right, let's move on to department and agency reports. I don't see the Forest Service
Did you want to say anything? We're still in public comment.
I'm just here, if you guys have any questions or concerns that you need addressed, just go ahead and let me know now.
Didn't know if you had some earth-shattering news.
Nothing earth-shattering, no. I am holding true on the request to get one more guy out here. It looks like that's probably gonna happen out of this next recruit class. I'm not holding any guarantees to that because stuff could change, but it's a pretty strong effort that's going through, so. Looks like you guys will probably be getting one more state police officer that's actually out here, so. That's all I got.
the manager's report.
I'll keep it fairly short. We have, I'll try to. In your notes, I have an email from Richard Govia. It's right after the minutes is where it's at. But at any rate, as you know, the county participated in an E-rate program along with the school systems and the libraries in the area. And Glenwood Library is under our purview, and they're getting as part of that. And I may have been aware of this at some time, but I didn't. We're getting $10,000 more equipment, but there is a share that the county has to pay a percentage, and the library is gonna be upgraded really well. The schools are actually coming out really good with the project too. We didn't get the extra fiber line coming into our communities, which I wanted, but at any rate, I would like permission from the commission to go ahead and commit to that. It would come out of our capital outlay fund in the commission fund to cover that. And it's gonna be a real big upgrade for the library. So, because it's $1,900, that's within my purview, but I would like your permission to do that, or ask you if you have any heartburn about that.
Didn't the Glenwood department have grant money? I thought they had some local grant money.
We don't have, we have money that we applied for to come back, but it's not here. We should be getting $5,000 back. Is it grant money? What is it?
That's only for books. That
Yeah.
is strictly for books. You cannot use it for anything else.
We have $12,000.
But it's a reimbursement.
No, we don't. We do not have $12,000.
Wait, 7,000. That's what this report has.
The grant is,
that line item was the received the grant money, but it was never had any expenditures taken out of that. So that was one of the things the auditor is looking into, because it is incorrect and we need to clean it up. I didn't realize none of the expenditures were coming out of it. All the expenditures for the library was coming out of the general fund. So,
Right, and but that 12,000 has been moved, I mean, it's.
not all of it.
Not,
No, just 5.
the 5,000 has
Yeah,
been moved
so-
into the correct line item to cover the Glenwood Library grant, but that grant is only good for books and you cannot use it on anything else.
Yeah.
But the figure here is not correct, so they're not gonna be buying $7,600 worth of books.
Correct.
Okay.
What? There's $10,000 worth of equipment.
Well, if you see there, the project total is $9,187, so $9,000 worth of equipment. The E-rate will cover $7,200 of that, and we would have to cover the rest.
That's for the Glenwood Library.
Did they do this for the data library?
They can't.
I think they got left out of the conversation.
No, it doesn't qualify.
It doesn't qualify?
It doesn't qualify. I tried, we actually tried that.
That's such a cute library.
It didn't qualify. I mean, if you don't have heartburn with it, I'm gonna go ahead with it. If you do have heartburn with it, I need to stop the project.
What kind of equipment are we talking about?
This is a, mostly a technological upgrade for the equipment they have. It's, some of it is new computers, some of it is a new, operating system to go along with, the push-up and that, if you want, in other words, if you want to really use, the internet, go to the schools or the library. You'll find out how the internet really works in some places. It's fast. You don't see that little circle going around and around and around.
I think we need to have some sort of access for people who use the internet if they don't have it themselves, so
Well, if we were gonna do that in the future on our own, it would cost us 10, 12 grand. So I just think it's a good opportunity at the moment.
So we would be spending $9,187?
No, we would be spending 1,958
Okay. To get a much higher speed?
to get 9, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we have a lot of citizens in Glenwood that are not able to have in-home computers. Plus, I know it's kind of a common practice in town to send folks close to the libraries for the Wi-Fi and stuff, and I think this would really be, for $1,900, I think this would be a great investment for our library, a higher speed internet access. I'm not a computer guy, but I have listened to some of this. I know the Forest Service is going to get the same system, is that right?
No, if they do, it's a separate thing to this. This is just schools and libraries. We really, I mean, the push was to include the county and government buildings on there and to get a separate line in for the communities, and we failed in that. So anyway, you guys can let me know later on that if you'd like,
Okay.
but I'd like to do that. Our audit closeout is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. And at least Cliff needs to be there, and any department chairs that want to be there can also be there. Not a problem. Other than that, I think most of the stuff I need to cover with you is in discussion and action items, Mr. Chairman, so I will stand for questioning.
Any questions, guys? Let's go to the finance report.
Oh, we got some good news that, check that was fraudulently, altered, we got our money back, the $4,810, got put back in the bank October 7th. And I guess the other bad news is I have been fighting payroll company for 5 years and there's no way I can balance the books. Becky's gonna have a hard time with the budget. Checks are going every which way, GLs are being created. I can only catch the GLs that I can find that affects my reports. I don't know what to say. You talk about getting a software company, I think you better get a new payroll company. I talked to the other counties that tried payroll company, and they dropped them in 2 months because they refused to work with them and they were having the same problems we are. So the quarterly reports are gonna go in, they're all gonna go in with fake, false numbers. There's nothing I can do about it. So I just wanna let you know.
Connie, I have your letter saying that you're not going to do quarterly reports anymore.
Well, it doesn't matter, all you have to do is push a button, I take care of the reports, Becky can push the button, send it. So anyway, it doesn't, I still end up doing the quarterly reports anyhow. Don't matter which way you look at it. But Becky's really gonna get the blunt end of it when it comes to budget time. Because just like the commission, we've had 7 pay periods. But Chairman Allred, you've only got 1 paycheck in it. Commission Hand, you only got 1 paycheck in it. Cliff has got 1, I think Bucky, you maybe got 4. Where did the rest of the paychecks go? I don't know. They're out in some other department. And so I was able to go through the bank statements, add all the money that they have taken out of our account, and all of what our payroll clerk was supposed to put in, and I'm $5,600 short someplace. There's no way I can find the money. I don't know how to do it. And I had this problem 2 years ago when there was $1 million. And I'm just tired. I just can't find it no more.
I know as far as the payroll company was contacted, and as far as, I think it was taking them like 4 weeks to get the spreadsheet back to our office, and now they have agreed to do the spreadsheet within the same week, so that should help a little bit. I'm not sure it's gonna, fix the problem, I don't know, but I just do know that John said that he would be able to get the spreadsheets back in the same week of the pay period, so it could be put into Triadic that week, the same week that it's being done.
But that still doesn't correct all the missing checks. I've looked at my payroll, I've got 3 paychecks missing out of my payroll. So when it comes to the end of the month, or the quarterly, I'm gonna be $10,000 short on my payroll, which some other departments are probably gonna be $10,000 over. So that's gonna affect your budget when you come.
No, because I can tell you where it's at, because all I need to do is look it up as a vendor, and I can tell you where it went by the line items. If there's missing checks, then somebody needs to come to me and give me the vendor's name.
No, this is payroll. We're talking about payroll, not
Right,
vendors.
but I still have, no, but I'm considering you as an individual a vendor, because you're in my file as a vendor. And I
Okay,
would still be, you give me the name, and I can look it up and tell you exactly what line item and where that check went. So if it needs to be fixed, then that's how we need to do it, we need to fix it. But
Okay.
somebody needs to come to me and say, hey, you know,
okay.
that's what needs to happen.
You need to go through all payroll for the last 3 months.
No, I'm only gonna go through if somebody comes to me and says, I'm not in the system.
Oh, I am at the treasurer.
It's not but it's not my job, it's not my job to do that.
I am at the treasurer asking you then if you can fix this, because I sure can't fix it.
No, I can only fix,
We're meeting Monday with Triadic.
I can only fix who, if somebody comes to me and says, my payroll is not in my line item, it's somewhere else, then I can look them up. I'm not gonna spend the time.
How's the road department supposed to come and look and say, my payroll's not in my line item?
Well, I know, but that's not my job. It's not my job.
Hold up. So Connie, are you telling me that people aren't getting paid?
Well, they're getting their paychecks,
Okay, if they're getting their paychecks,
so you're not worried about balancing the books?
well, the way it sounded like somebody's not getting paid. If everybody's getting paid.
Everybody's getting paid, but the bank books aren't
Then
getting
the money's
balanced.
going where it needs to go.
No, it's not. That's what I'm saying. The
We're
money's
just-
not going where it needs to go.
Becky,
Yes,
how do they send us the spreadsheet?
I don't know, that's a Lou question.
Okay,
That goes to payroll.
so does it come to us computerized, or they put it in the mail, or how do we get it?
It comes to, well, the reason that we're meeting with Triadic is to see if we can utilize their system and take out this, the payroll middleman part of that.
But that's not gonna solve the problem.
Well, it very well could solve the problem, because I think what we're talking about, and I think what Connie's talking about, is we have individuals that are listed possibly in other departments, or they're getting paid out of other departments. And in the end, Cliff is kind of right too, because in the end, the money is going out to people, but we're showing up, what could happen is one department could be losing money that they're not supposed to lose, correct?
Correct.
And so we wanna make sure we wanna make sure we straighten that out. So it has to be an identification problem. And that's something that we have to go back to the root of and figure out.
If the payroll company has a list, and they're going by their list, in this department, and that department, and that department, if they've got people wrong on the list, is that their fault or our fault? If they've got Bill Green listed as in the road department instead of where he's supposed to be, is that their fault or our fault? So I think we're blaming the payroll company.
And I
The
agree.
payroll company does a lot of work for us that we don't have to do.
Exactly.
So when we start talking about cutting out the middleman,
Why we would
he
look
does
for,
all of the taxes.
why don't we look for another company that maybe will work with us and try to correct some of this? I've been working.
Have you called and talked to this guy?
He won't talk to me. I told Bill when he first came, I said, he will not talk to me. Our previous manager put a block on everybody. So, no, I could not talk to him. I could not email him. I could not do nothing with him.
That's great.
And like
So
2 years ago, there was $1 million that wasn't put in the accounts, and so all the books are all off.
So you don't really have anything to do with payroll other than trying to
Balance the books.
balance everybody's.
And like now,
So-
I'm trying to balance the books, I'm $5,600 off in payroll. How do I find it?
It's theirs, it's in the wrong department.
No, it's missing. It's totally, they drew it out, but it hasn't been recorded in the software. So they've actually taken $5,600 of our money, and I have no place to put it. There's no recording of it. That's what I'm saying. They can pull money out, and they don't have to tell me where it goes, who it goes to, or nothing.
Well,
I mean, every pay period, $100,000 is dropped.
they send us what they do. Becky.
First of all, Lou should have a copy of any kind of transaction where money's being taken out. That should be a given. I mean, there should be a paper trail.
Okay, so
There should be a
Lou,
paper trail. Second of all, if the departments are paying attention to their budgets, they will have half a clue that maybe they're getting, because we're trying to send them out like, I was gonna try to do it every Friday, that's just impossible, so I'm trying to do it like every 2 weeks. But if departments are paying attention to their line item for, payroll or whatever, they'll catch on that there's a problem with that, and then they can come and see me, and I'll look it up. I mean, but you gotta pay attention, each department needs to pay attention to their expenditures, I mean.
so we get this spreadsheet from the payroll company. Lou does the upload to Triadic.
Right, but I don't know what's on the spreadsheet, but I would probably tell you that the line items are not on the spreadsheet from the payroll company. That's gonna be an in-house. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just assuming that that's gonna be an in-house data entry. I don't think the payroll company deals with our line items. They would have no reason to.
Yeah, no.
So it comes to us and then it gets input into, it's actual double work. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's double work. Then it gets put into Triadic. And so if there's, and Triadic's tricky because if you put in, I had it happen to me the other day and I can't even remember what it was, but if you put in a wrong line item, whatever, it actually starts creating its own line items, which is just ridiculous. So it created a new line item for my solid waste program that doesn't even exist. And so.
It does that with payroll all the time.
And so
only way I can catch these,
You're saying
Create it.
Triadic does that?
Triadic, yes.
But Lou said that when I took that up, it was her that made the error, which created the wrong line item. So I don't know what it's causing it.
Well, it's half and half. I mean, it's human error, but when you do that, Triadic then starts creating a new line item. So then you start getting all these line items that have nothing to do with, that should not even exist.
Okay, so she basically making a typo error and making a new line item. So it's human error doing it.
Okay.
Okay, what happens is the payroll company does the checks, it goes, they have to have our line items in order to process it. They give Lou a spreadsheet that has the line items that those checks were taken out of. Then Lou has to go through them and she has to make sure they're corrected. And then she can upload it into Triadic. So she has a lot of extra work she's having to do.
That's the one reason I wanted to meet with Triadic, to see if there's actually a way to simplify this and keep better track of things. Yeah, and you may be right.
Okay. Yeah, the finance report. There's the totals. Any? See? Okay, this is the balance. Any comment on the
Treasurer's report?
treasurer's report?
I would just like to say for the record, I do not think it's my responsibility to take over quarterly reports. I just want that on the record. It's not my responsibility.
On the treasurer's report, checks cut, not cleared, accounts payable, $519,000, is that for some of the projects that we're working on right now?
No, the checks were cut right at the end of the month, so it was a whole pay check registry at that time.
But that amount included, the Greens Gap Road payment, that project, didn't it? Is that why it's so high?
Probably. It was any checks that had outstanding checks at that time, so if it was one of them, it might
If
be.
you're, I would think that that's the bulk of it, Anita, if you're wondering why it's so high.
Yes, thank you.
Should be on the register there, the check register.
Mr. Chairman,
But that been the
I
last
have a
one.
question. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Green, and I don't want any elaboration from any of you ladies. I don't mean any disrespect. There seems to be a serious amount of confusion. And do you have a foundational plan to immediately try to get this under control and find the loophole, find the problems that we're having, starting with maybe with the payroll company, making sure that they're holding up their end of it, and then trying to communicate with Triadic to simplify this and proceed?
Well, I hope I do. I've done two things. We've contacted Triadic to send a representative to meet with us, to walk through the system, to determine whether or not that would actually help us, to cut out the payroll system and go directly to Triadic. When they did that before, it didn't work. There were some major problems, but I really think it was in-house problems, not the Triadic system. But I want to look at that option. The other thing I've asked our auditors to look at this situation specifically. I think we're gonna get dinged on it, but I want to know what they see as the problems, so we can get it from an outside viewpoint. They can say, look, you've got these people in this area and it's wrong, and this is why. We'll find that out tomorrow. So we do have a game plan, not sitting on our hands on this. I'd like to point out, that before we had an outside source doing their quarterly reports. We've worked with Connie. Connie wanted the reports back and wanted to be involved, and we have been, I think we've worked together fairly well to make some inroads on this. I'm sorry for the frustration right now, but I do think it's something that we can work through and we can get. I want to point out, the people are getting paid. Bills are getting paid. But some of it, I think, and I'm in total agreement with Connie, is going to the wrong departments. We want to make sure that that's straightened out so the money is paid out right. I will point out that I thought we had too much funds coming back in carryover, and like to say, oh wow, we did really well. But I really think part of that is because we had extra payroll left over because it came out of wrong departments in the general fund. That's just a personal opinion. I'm waiting to hear from the auditors to make sure. We'll have a better report. That's tomorrow. We'll have a better report, and we'll have we'll be ready for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a motion to approve the quarterly report?
Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. Sorry.
Move to approve the treasurer's report as presented in our packet.
And I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. NMC board report, Keith.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we had our regular meeting last week and Truth and Consequences, and our primary focus was legislative priorities coming up in January. And we set 4 priorities that we focused on. Number 1 is the appropriations that includes specifically restoring the detention reimbursement fund, prisoner transport fund, and increasing EMS funding. So those are 3 primary focuses in the appropriations bill. And then in addition to that, our priorities are increasing distributions to law enforcement protection fund, a behavioral health plan that they passed a test or sample last year and they I think they did 4 or 5 counties that were test counties to work with their jails and behavioral health, because that's always a big issue. And I know that you probably understand that after being in the sheriff's office for many years. Behavioral health is a big issue in our jails. And so we're supporting a full passage of the bill that would bring money into, I think, I can't remember now how many counties don't have jails anymore. Most of the counties do have jails, but there's a handful that don't have any jail at all. And so they transport their patients, their prisoners elsewhere. And, but many of them are mental health issue, people that, you know, I mean, we pay a ton of money every year out of our budgets to cover behavioral health issues, medications, doctor visits and everything else. Anyway, so it would be a grant that would be available to all counties to help with that area. And the other one is a bill to promote PERA solvency, because the county PERA is actually at 93%, is funded at 93%, which is very good. But the other areas of the PERA are not. And so what a lot of people in the state are proposing is increasing how much the counties and how much the individuals have to pay. And we're taking a stand and saying, no, we don't need to increase what we pay. The state needs to fork up some money and bring it to solvency, because they failed in the process in the long run. So that's a key priority issue. And then we supported several other bills from several other affiliates across the state, volunteer firefighter retirement, and
Can I ask about that? Because they brought that up in the manager's affiliate last summer. And while that all sounds really well, and obviously we survive on volunteer fire departments, but if they're gonna create a retirement fund
we already have it.
for the volunteer fire departments
Oh, yeah.
that has no money coming in for them, and you're gonna give them a retirement because you put in this much services, that means the rest of you, as you work for the county, are paying for a retirement fund for people that don't put money.
No, we're not. It's funded through insurance. There's a fee on every homeowner's insurance, car insurance. There's a fee that goes to the state, and that goes to fire EMS, and a portion of that is used to fund.
And they're gonna put that in the para.
Oh, it's been there. It's been there for all along. It's been there all along.
Is it gonna come out of para though?
That's where it's invested into para, and it comes out of para. But that one's 100% paid.
What is it now when you've reached your retirement, $100 or $200?
10 years, get $150 a month. 25 years, I think it is, you get $250 a month. Yeah. And what they're proposing is to make it a little bit more.
Well, I'm not saying I'm against it, I was just
10, 15,
wondering about, when they talk about the solvency issue, you're putting another.
But this is paid for out of a totally separate thing, and it's paid for.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, you're already paying that for that when we buy insurance.
Did y'all discuss the director's salary increase?
He's gonna retire next year.
Add a little bit more money into that para so he can get a bigger retirement?
That's more than $250 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't volunteer for that job at all, so he's gonna get a pretty penny.
No, well, this doesn't come out of PRA because he's not. Other than that, there was still a few other items, but it was minor stuff. I had a Clerks affiliate bylaw change that we requested, and they shot it down, and Clerks affiliate is upset, so we'll do that later. So, if any other questions, that concludes my report. And that was the key item, was our legislative priorities. And this is the legislative year, the 30-day session in January. The governor is pushing a lot of her agenda out there.
With all the problems with the senior program across the state, has New Mexico counties not wanted to get involved with that? Because this is an issue across the county. It's 33 county problem.
Yeah.
And if they're 33 strong, they need to be making sure they're taking care of the senior programs across the state and addressing that. Because that's a huge issue. They shouldn't be turning a blind eye to that. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I'll certainly throw that out to the committee in charge of that. I will.
Right. Go on to discussion items. Time
Peto's the one that brought that up, and he's not here.
It's all right.
I would, my position on that is it's unnecessary, and it doesn't affect, that many individuals. And so, follow the directive of the commission on that, but Dave's the one that requested it be on here, and he's not here. So,
This we can move it to next meeting.
okay. Question?
There's a question.
I just feel like I'm gonna be the bad person here today. My input on the time cards is that, number one, right, it's only gonna affect a select few of the people, maybe 8 in the whole courthouse. Second of all, my question would be, who is going to, who is in charge of holding any of the departments accountable if they don't use the time card or whatever? Because the commission office can't technically be in charge of them, so who is the person that's going to hold the courthouse responsible for using a time card? That would be my question.
Human resources. Yeah.
I just kinda figured Mr. Beto would be in charge of it.
Adrian, if we were to go to something like that, we'd have to change our policy somehow to.
Well, let me say this, and I think it's a good discussion to have, at least about a time card. I mean, nobody likes to have time cards, but I will tell you, it's something that's been done since, like 1933, so it's not really new. And I mean, what the reason for it, I mean, just for a discussion out there, we're all responsible for for taxpayer money, and so there's a danger to everyone needs to put in their time. But the bigger danger is people need to get paid for their time, and it is a big violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. I'm not saying that's going on, but I've seen it in other places where people go in and donate their time. You can't do that. You need to get paid for what time is worked. And it's just a way to be accountable and then to make sure we don't have substantial damages if there's a violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And the way it works is the Board of County Commissioners is in charge of all personnel except for the chief deputy, the chief deputies and the elected officials. You make the personnel policy for those. And so the manager has complete authority to enforce, any kind of rules and regulations. And I'm not saying, we do this or not, but I'm saying it is a good discussion and we should probably have it on the next meeting.
I think you'd be talking about 5 employees.
5 employees, but plus, you also have road department employees, you also have sheriff's department employees, you have solid waste employees, there's quite a few that would apply.
5 in the courthouse.
So you're talking
Which
about
costs a
putting
lot more money.
you're talking about putting a time clock even down like in the road yards and stuff like that? I wasn't.
Yeah, it would need to cover everybody.
I didn't realize that was.
I mean, the way it works is, let's say for the sheriff's department, like, my brother who lives, out on the place with us, okay, so he is 70 miles away from the sheriff's department when he goes to work, but as soon as he gets in cell phone range, you call dispatch, they do the clock in. And that way you have at least it's just all on a computer, you press a button, it's pretty simple.
That's how they do it here.
So
When
I
they go on duty, they call the.
Exactly, same thing, so it's just putting it into a centralized system.
So on my solid waste, I have 4 solid waste sites, so I'm gonna have to put a time clock at each site?
Or they can call in, just like the sheriff's department does, either way.
And who are they calling into?
Well, they would either call in to you, probably to you as their supervisor. And that way, heck, they're at work then. I mean, there you.
Well, I trust them to be at work anyway. I don't have an issue with them, I'm sure that if they don't show up, I hear about it, because the site's not open, but I mean, I don't know.
Okay,
Anyway,
we can move that
we
to
can have it
next,
for
We
discussion.
can save it for.
when Dave's here.
Try it again. Floodplain maps,
Um,
construction compliance.
I have you have a letter there from Wendy Blackwell. Just point out that, floodplain maps, they're still trying to get the drafts in from FEMA, and FEMA has not given them to us yet. Recently, we have been given the task of signing off on construction permits as floodplain managers. I really think that should be, and that probably should come under the emergency manager, but I've been signing off on the ones that are coming in. And what I do is I go to the assessor's site and look at, and it's on the internet, and you can look at it and see where it's at. You make a phone call to the person applying for it, and you can pretty much determine that it's not in a floodplain, or it is an area to be flooded. And that's what I do. But until we get actual floodplain maps from FEMA for Catron County, it's pretty much down to common sense. And that's how I'm doing it right now, unless directed otherwise by you three.
I think it should go under emergency management, because they're working with FEMA, working with floods, and if it's, maybe the emergency manager could kind of speed up the whole floodplain process with FEMA.
Well, they have a training too, that I think that he could go to.
I think that's probably a good idea.
Chairman, when I'm through, I've got an observation and a question. Ms. Blackwell, what department is she in?
She's with the State Department, the New Mexico State Department.
Homeland Security.
It's my understanding, Mr. Chairman and Bill, that U.S. Geological Survey finished a survey, an engineered survey of 2 of our tributaries after flood stage. It's also my understanding that the Army Corps of Engineers done the same thing. And I would like, with the board's permission, to direct Bill to inquire from those agencies if in fact there are documents in place that could support what this lady is demanding from our construction people. Otherwise, folks are still unable to buy insurance. There's no identified place where these floodplains are at. And personally, I really think that's something that Mrs. Blackwell should know all about. If she's demanding from these construction people, has she been able to tell you that she has maps of the areas or provide you with
No, she's leaving it up to us to find what we can to discern.
Exactly, so we're gonna go out and shoot in space and find things that don't exist. So I think, Adrian, can you help me out here a little bit? Because to me, it's kind of like, what do we do? I mean, if you and I could get some money for this, I guess you might go out and do the survey in the next month and do all this.
Commissioner, I think you're certainly on the right track, about shooting in the dark. I mean, we definitely don't want to do that, and I really appreciate Bill taking it on like that, but I don't know. I'm not sure where to go ultimately than just tell them, until we have our floodplain maps, and why, we're not going to be doing this, or, I don't know, what do you think?
Well, at the very least,
They can't construct without a sign on them. Without somebody signing on the permit, they cannot do construction in the county.
I have a question. Before anybody goes and demands anything, I believe, would you please write a letter to Mrs. Blackwell and tell her that it's her agency and maybe the federal agencies, Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Geological Survey, and those folks should provide us with some sort of beginning place. I mean, how can they demand something from us that's their responsibility to complete? That's my understanding.
Wendy Blackwell is not demanding anything from the county. The regulation licensing division is where this started with the whole floodplain stuff. And since we don't have anything from FEMA, nothing has been done from the county to identify the floodplains, because that's FEMA. Then the next question goes to the Preparedness Bureau Chief, which is Wendy Blackwell, and she's the State Hazardous Mitigation Officer, which falls under New Mexico's emergency management. So she needs to be working with our emergency manager to get all of this stuff moved forward. And if we don't have the floodplains, and I believe Adrian discussed at the last meeting, is that, you know, Socorro got theirs done 20 years after they requested it being done. You just sign off on it and say, to the best of your knowledge, it's not a floodplain. I don't think there's so much demanding anything from us other than this is what the floodplain, what the
And actually,
compliance is.
that's how I'm signing off on it.
And I really think that our emergency manager needs to be working with Wendy so he can start signing off on it. And then maybe that'll start moving it forward if we start having more construction, the regulation and licensing division requiring more sign-offs on the floodplain. And if our emergency manager works with the state emergency manager, then maybe we can get this rolling and get it over and done with and not have to wait 20 years, like Socorro County had to.
Please not forget regulation and license, those people. I mean, they were the one that kicked the sleeping dog and woke him up. So I think we need to go back to them and let them enjoy some of this fun.
And I think that's right, and then Bill, Bill takes on a lot, so let's get on the phone maybe today, Bill. Because, I mean, when I'm reading through their regulations, they're saying if we choose to do an ordinance, well, we have not done an ordinance. I mean, I think they're trying to push this on us when it may not be our.
Right.
Because
Why should we do it?
Because there's a blank on a form and they want that blank filled in. That doesn't mean we have to fill in the blank.
And then,
I mean.
But I wanna allow, construction to go on. And so I.
Right, but
So I do this to the best of my knowledge.
Correct, yeah, certainly, I understand that. I mean, that's, you're making sure things are, we're not coming to a darn standstill, but let me get on the phone with her and have a,
right. And I also
have that conversation.
agree with Commissioner Hand, you got a full plate. So our emergency management gentlemen should be maybe running some of this down for you. And I would encourage you to direct him to do that.
I'll try to make sure that he's, goes to the training for it.
The training is pretty intense. I sent one gentleman to it not long after the 2013 floods. And it's a couple of weeks and more. So I'm looking into it too.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
So it seems to me like you get into this, take Glenwood for an example, everybody living on Whitewater is in the floodplain. If they decide they want to build a garage, we're gonna put on there, no, can't build that garage, it's in a floodplain. They've already got a house in a floodplain.
The county just signs off and says it's in a floodplain, and then it's the licensing and division department that tells the construction worker, no, you can't, because that's in a floodplain.
Yeah.
I mean, there are houses in the Homestead subdivision in Gattle that are right there in that big arroyo. And one of the reasons why we keep having road problems is because they went and diverted the water to where it runs right down the road instead of into that house.
The ultimate issue is, the federal government, as Nina pointed, under their law, is supposed to provide floodplain maps. The point of that, as Bucky pointed out, is so that if you're in a floodplain, you can participate in this national insurance program. Problem is, there is no floodplain maps, so you can't participate in the program. And so there's really no point to it except for the state has a box and they want that box checked.
Nice statement.
There's a question in the audience.
I have a question. I mean, I appreciate we don't want to slow down construction, but if you're making your best guess, and most of the time, common sense prevails, but if there's some, I mean, it's a long training, right, as Bucky said, so if there's some oddball case and you're wrong, does the county have liability?
Well, my answer to that is the two cases, the only two permits that I have dealt with so far, I know the area personally, I've went there. So I'm just trying to do the best I can to allow construction to go on. As Cliff pointed out, at some time I'm gonna get one from Whitewater. are from the wrong area of Glenwood, and I'm gonna say, we're gonna have to do something about this, because I can't sign that.
Yes, and we don't have any ordinance anyway, none of that makes any sense.
Well, and the minute we have an ordinance, they try to then put it back on you and say you, the county, are liable and not the state. So we're in a catch-22 situation then.
And we can't do an ordinance unless we have floodplain maps anyway, so it's like.
Don't depend on FEMA for it.
Right?
I thought my goats were dogs during the floods.
Oh my,
Yes,
I believe it.
it's true.
Okay, let's go to communications.
I apologize to everybody that I said this was gonna be a short, quick meeting.
Just want to make sure we make it to 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that's, well, we're gonna have no problem when we get to H. Stacy here, did she leave?
She had to leave. She had a phone call and she left.
Okay, then we can, the Larry Moniz communication things was for if Stacy had something to bring up, so we can move past that. We've discussed that already amongst ourselves.
EMS.
The PMS State Department meeting, Commissioner Hand and myself went to that yesterday. We will be dealing with that in action items, and I think that it's gonna be something that we're going to possibly want to table, but that will be up to you guys. The contracts weren't ready. The contracts that I've given you in your packets are copies of the McKinley County contract, but we can discuss that at that time, so I would say let's just move past that. We'll be doing that again.
Reserve County Road Maintenance Agreement.
That was requested by the Village of Reserve, and we have happy people here ready to present to us.
Do you want me to hand these out?
Yes.
So we met with Mr. Green, what was it, like, there's an extra one, a couple months ago?
We actually had a discussion item in here at some time.
So we met with him a couple months ago about a previous agreement with the county regarding the village roads. There was a maintenance agreement, and we were just wanting to try and get it renewed if possible, and we needed to see what was being done.
The commissioners, the last time we had this as a discussion item, commissioners expressed concern about what the county does for the village and how appropriate it was. And that was the last time we discussed it. And so here we are. If this is the purview of the commissioners, we can put this on as an action item in November.
I will mention that I won't be here in November. I will be up at the budget conference.
But they'll still have, I mean, it would
I'm
still
just
be an
saying.
action, yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would encourage us to table this definitely till the next meeting and give us a chance to review this. And I'd also like for the attorneys and this would be dirt surface roads that we maintain for them, even the pavement
Yeah,
roads.
patch roads and, we had talked about possibly like blading. We had talked about that, blading the snow.
Which the county does.
But we just wanted it in the agreements.
I'd just like a chance to visit with
Okay.
all those folks.
Is there anybody that has questions of Amanda before we move on?
I just needed something to tell my council members and village people.
I mean, I will tell you, as far as just to bring it back to the council, we will have to change this agreement. I mean, as is, it's, you know, it says, we're not gonna get paid anything, but we are completely responsible for everything.
It's an old agreement, so.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, because our road department is always strapped for finances, the sum of $1 a year, I think we need to address that.
Yeah, and
As well, the village is strapped with finances as well, so
Don't y'all unincorporate, we don't have to worry about it.
I wish we could.
County has it for sure.
We already have it anyway, law enforcement road.
Well, then, you can, Amanda, then you can tell your council that it will be an action item, and they might want to, if you can't be here, they might want to have council meeting members here
I'll try to get
for
the
that,
mayor.
at that time.
I'll try and get the mayor.
Okay.
So as it is, we don't really have an agreement right now.
We're just working off the old agreement.
Don't.
This one's like in 2016 or something.
2012.
That was the last one, so.
But you remember, in 2012, the world was supposed to end, and so. So I guess that's postponed as well.
Okay, we'll have it on the agenda next month.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Amanda.
Borderlands letter to county, come on to school.
That's included in your packets. I thought that Mr. Lackey would be here to address the council, but he is not.
I do know their decision is on, they have it as an action item at on their school board meeting next week. Eileen did ask the chair to put it on the agenda for discussion and action because they needed to deal with this.
Trying to see where, I know I put it in your packets.
It is, it is there, and so, I mean, really, ultimately, what's going on, this will be, there's an item later on to direct publication of a industrial revenue bond ordinance. That is just so that we can have it, the title and general summary out there, and so that we can have a discussion of it at the next meeting in a public hearing. But we are, if it's something that the county commission decides to do, they are offering it's a fair amount of money for really no obligation of the county. The only ultimate question is the distribution, the difference, working it out with the school system, and that still needs to be negotiated, so.
And we already have we've already had an action item where that was motioned and passed during the last meeting. Or the September 12 meeting.
Special, yeah.
So at any rate, we're set. It's up to the school to come back with a response.
Exactly, that's what I'm sorry, that's what I mean, but good, thank you.
And they should have a response next week, because.
Right.
It's free money.
And just for the record, they were only gonna give us 3,200, and after some discussions with Dave, they went up to another 100. So we went from 320,000 a year to 330,000. I mean, it's not a whole lot, but half the salary.
It's better than a poker game.
That's right. It's money that we didn't have.
Maybe we don't have before.
Anyway, just wanted you to know that letter was out. The one thing I will point out was that there was basically a time constraint on that letter. And I did go and meet with Mr. Lackey about that, and he was in agreement. I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that. So I think that we're setting well, but I wanted to make sure we acted on that, because there is another site that they have in planning in case this doesn't work. And we don't want to squabble between the school and the county to knock out, a good potential amount of money for the foreseeable future. And getting ahead of myself. Any questions
So
on
the
that?
school will have something pretty quick.
Next Tuesday is their meeting.
Yeah, and this is absolutely has no negative or financial impact on the school. They don't expect to have any more students, they don't expect any impact. They are getting $132,000 a year if they agree with their 60-40 split. It's completely free money. And they've even offered to meet with the school and see if there's different areas, maybe buy laptops, buy computer lab, computers, maybe do some stuff with the FFA program. There's gonna be more money that they give to the schools directly, so it's financially, it's a win-win situation.
And the last meeting, the last community meeting actually went pretty well by all standards, so we're good.
All right, we'll move on to the Washington trip, meet the Deputy Secretary of Interior.
We have a game plan, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We will be going and meeting with the Deputy Secretary of the Interior, and several other committee members up there dealing with wolf concerns and also the shutting down of the forest. We're also going to meet with our Washington representatives while we're up there the day before the meeting. So that will happen the week after next.
And just so you know, I plan on bringing up the impact thing. I am so mad at Verizon, I am on a quest with them, so a conversation will be had about the lack of broadband connection to the outside world.
So that is a joint effort with Catherine and Sierra County.
So do you and India, you two?
Bill and I and
then
Dave.
Mr. Paxson and Mr. Swingle from Sierra County.
Is Howard going?
And Howard Hutchinson is going, and also Mr. Pato will be going.
Are we taking the petitions this time?
Yes.
Who is the Deputy Secretary?
David. Guess I better learn his last name if we're going to see him.
It's, just go up and say, hey Dave, how's it going? And then it'll be fine.
So you're going the last week of October, the 21st?
The 21st, we'll be going up the 21st, the meeting's on the 23rd.
David Bernhardt.
Who's gonna collect the petitions, because we do have one at the store.
I already collected it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that's when I was talking with your husband.
Oh.
We should have talked to you, because then he would have saved you a trip.
Oh, yes, you would have.
Take a break.
Sorry, I hope you don't get in trouble.
Take a short break and then we'll go to action items. Action items.
Okay.
Consideration of approval of resolution 019-2020 county protest board, new assessors appeals committee member and alternate.
Yes.
Change.
Well, I had two committee members, and one of them was unable, her mom was having surgery and stuff, so she's not going to be able to serve. So I had Sharon Armijo appointed. So Cindy Wasserberger, I think that she actually is Cynthia Wasserberger, is going to be the other person, and then Jackie Fryer is going to be my alternate. I have one protest. My protest hearing is set for October 30th at 1 o'clock. I don't know if I'll actually have a hearing because it's property owners, you can't make them, they're not subpoenaed to appear. They requested it, and then if they don't show, there's nothing I can do about it. But I have one.
And Lily, the protests are the way you assess their property values or something?
Yeah, what it is we have a protest period when the notice of values go out, which we always mail exactly on October 1st, April 1st, as close as we can get to that. There's a 30-day period which goes from April 1st to May 1st. So in that 30 days, if you feel your property isn't valued correct, or if it isn't classified correct, or any dispute, I guess you'd say, you have over the value or the classification, you can do a protest. We hold, let's say that, go back to your little rose arbor thing there.
Yeah, it's too late for me to protest that. Right?
Yes, but you.
I will be back.
All right. So you call me and you say you overvalued this and you've classified it as a commercial property and I'm not selling roses commercially and whatever, and I'm not happy with this. Then you fill out a form, and then we have we'll go out and look it over, then we'll call you and have an informal hearing and say, Bucky, I'm sorry, didn't realize you only had 2 roses, it's not commercial, we'll change the classification, you know, whatever. If you say, okay, well, that's not good enough, I don't want this, or, you know, whatever, then you can go to a formal. Or if we go out and you have a greenhouse and you're selling roses, I'm gonna say, well, Bucky, you are selling roses, so we're not gonna change anything. Then you're entitled to go before a protest board, which the state will come down and hold the hearing.
Thank you.
So who are the members now?
Sharon Armijo, Cynthia Wasserberger, and my alternate is Jackie Fryer.
That's a coffee pot. I thought your stomach was running over there.
That's him.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to approve resolution 019-2020. That's Sharon Armijo, Cynthia Wasserberger, and Jackie Fryer is the alternate. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, consideration of approval of resolution 022-2020 ambulance fund to corrections.
And Mr. Chairman, a few meetings ago, the board adopted an ordinance that basically, pursuant to House Bill 479, changes the earmark for these funds. And so what we'll need to do is to do a budget adjustment resolution in order for those funds to come in, to put them in the right line item. However, I think my recommendation at this point would be to postpone this until the December meeting so that it can start January 1st. There's no confusion about the time that the ordinance is in effect. I would postpone this until December.
I move to table consideration for the resolution 022-2020, moving the ambulance, regarding the ambulance fund to correction funds, and table until December.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to table this or set it aside until the December meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Direction to staff to publish ordinance 004-2019 Borderlands Wind Farm.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as we discussed earlier, this is for the industrial revenue bonds, which of course still have to go through a public hearing process, and we also have to have an agreement with the schools regarding the particular distribution of any funds that are received. However, pursuant to New Mexico Statute 437.7, we do need to publish the title and general summary of an ordinance so that we can have a public hearing on it and adopt it at a later time, which would be in November. So I would request a motion and a vote to direct staff to publish the title and general summary of the Borderland Winds Farm Industrial Revenue Bond Ordinance for a public hearing.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we go ahead and direct staff publish ordinance 004-2019 Borderlands Wind Farm
I'll second that.
with one other thing. I just can't help myself. I hope everybody knows that one of the biggest problems in Wyoming right now with wind generation is the burying of the junk blades for all these. Thank you.
We've got a motion and a second to direct staff to publish ordinance 004-2019 so we can have a public hearing in next meeting in November. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Consideration of approval of PMS County Agreement for Senior Centers.
Mr. Chairman, it pains me to do this because this is set to the change to PMS is set to happen in at the 1st of November. But all I have for you is her her examples of their contracts with McKinley County. And I would think that you would need the finished contracts between PMS and Catherine County for your review, so you know exactly what it entails. Obviously, from our last meeting, they are requesting that we pay the utilities. And I'm still questioning that because Anita and I met with them and AAA and the State Department yesterday, and it looks to me like the funding is there and to possibly pay for the utilities, or at least part of that. So I would like for PMS to flesh that out a little bit before we commit to paying for the utilities. They are, I didn't have any heartburn over us committing to the upkeep of the facilities. That's not a gigantic leap for us, but the utilities would be about $30,000 a year. That said, it's still, to me, a better deal than taking over the centers ourselves. But I would ask for you to table this until we'll have to have a special meeting at the end of the month dealing specifically with this.
Move to table the PMS County agreement for the senior centers due to lack of a contract.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to set this aside or table it until future date. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Stacy's still not here, and I don't have a, I don't have the request from the Sheriff's Department for a vehicle, so I don't have the paperwork on that. I was expecting her to bring that.
We'll move on to consideration of approval of Resolution 020-2020 demanding immediate restoration of the permitted use of our national forests and letter to public officials.
You have those, they're, it's a well-written letter and resolution. I think Mr. Pato took care of that. I'd like to give him kudos for that. We would like the opportunity your approval to send those letters out today, and also with a copy of the resolution to all of our elected officials. It's right at the end of in your pamphlets. What you have on the letter is a list of all of the elected officials that's going to go to. The letterhead will be on each of them. The resolutions, it's a very necessary thing on our part. The lumber industry is just barely getting started back here in Catherine County, and all of a sudden, this is an attempt to kill it. And if we don't get this turned around, it will kill the lumber industry in our county. This is a #1 priority for us.
Notice here at the end of the resolution, it says it's approved, adopted, and passed on the 15th day of October. Is that gonna matter?
We can change that.
We can change that.
Since this is the 10th.
I actually missed that. Where it said that. Easy fix.
I move to approve. I like it.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion and a second to approve resolution 2020.
0/20/2020.
All in favor?
The resolution that you'll sign does have that number on it.
All right.
Aye.
Huh?
Yeah, we already addressed the right date.
Yeah.
Motion carries. Do we need another vote on whether it's in the letters or?
No, I think if you move to approve that, I can send the letters with it.
Send the letters. We've got a consideration of approval to purchase equipment for Glenwood Fire Department.
Joyce can elaborate on this if she'd like, but this is generic, equipment that they have to there's nothing new here. It's
following
protective clothing and stuff like that.
Right, just following procurement's policy of getting approval.
Because it's over $10,000, so they have to
Did they
bring
buy
it.
it?
It's protective gear, equipment,
Yeah, PPE.
PPE.
Being as I need some for Dow, I move to approve.
And I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion and a second to approve purchase of equipment for Glenwood Fire Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have to wait exactly 3 minutes
3 minutes,
before we
yeah.
can approve. Item H, may I ask this time, Mr. Lackey has showed up and ask him if he would like to discuss anything in regards to the wind farm since he wasn't here earlier. That would be up to
Mr.
you.
Lucky.
Well, I'd just like to make myself available for any questions that you guys might have. I know that you guys approved the resolution, and I apologize for being late, first of all. I want to express, the school board, I believe, wants this project to go forward, and my understanding of it is it requires a resolution from the county, which you guys did approve the resolution. It also requires a resolution from the school board, and I don't believe the school board is ready to approve what was presented to them. And at this point, there has been no direct discussion between county commission and school board, or myself. Bill and I have talked quite a bit, so just want to make myself available for any questions that you might have, or certainly don't want to hold you up in the meeting.
You still got a couple more minutes.
So the school board is having a meeting when?
Our regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday. And I don't know at this point that this is going to be even on the agenda. I would...
And if it's not on the agenda, David, the letter that you and I received that from Dave kind of indicated there might be a time frame involved. Have you been in discussion with him that there's plenty of time?
We're looking at actually meeting with Dave later in the month. We're throwing around the date of the 24th right now. He's asked if that works for us, and he's trying to make it work for us.
So he's not saying that he hasn't personally told you like November the 1st deal's off or anything like that?
No.
I mean, all I have is a letter that we've had. I haven't talked to Dave.
No, I haven't been given any type of firm deadline. Obviously, I've heard, I was here, and I heard in that discussion, I also have heard in other discussions that, it behooves them to have it done sooner rather than later because it's a roadblock and it allows the project to move forward. So from a business perspective, that certainly behooves them to have it done sooner or later. And like I said, we're not opposed to the project, but we're certainly would prefer to have some discussion, and we have to have that today, so.
Prefer to have some discussion with,
Well, you know, I guess we have kind of two ways to move forward. I mean, the school board I can put it on there, and the school board can either make a counter proposal, or they can just disapprove it. Or they might approve it, I'm not the school board, that's kind
do
of
you
their
want
decision.
representation from the commission at the board meeting?
That would be up to you. I mean, then they can send it back to you for your consideration, and we can do the negotiation in that direction. Or we can have a conversation up front, have something that we both think can live with and is mutually beneficial, and we can move forward like that. So, we're kind of wide open. However the commission would like to move forward on.
As a superintendent, are you okay with the $3,300 a year?
So the total PILT?
No,
Their offer.
Their offer.
Yeah, so, well, I'll be discussing directly with Dave. You know, that's a hard question. I don't know that I can give you a very direct answer at this point.
Because what they're offering to other places now is $2,600. So to me, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around why it's so hard to take the $333,000 a year when it's free money to the county and to the school, and other places are only being offered $2,600.
Yeah, that's certainly part of the discussion. I would agree.
Because they could always jump it down to $2,600 and we'll lose out a lot more.
Yeah, they've also got an agreement on the other side of the state for $5,200. I would agree $3,300 is right in the middle of the range, based on my research. Low end is, 18, high end is 52. And likewise, that's the PILT amount, right, coming from the company to the county. Based on my research, the trend has very much been split between county and schools. It's been 50-50. That's the latest one in Grant and Silver City Schools. And that's been the trend over the last 5 years, and there's some outliers. I mean, there's one from very early on that was 90-10 county. There's also one very early on that was 90-10 school. It was a very small deal, and I don't know what the circumstances were, but apparently they would like to take the money to school.
How does the school board feel about the 60-40 that we passed in our resolution?
60-40 for 5 years and 70-30 for 10. There's not a lot of enthusiasm for that at this point.
So who sets the agenda for the school board?
Well, I do, in coordination with the board members. I'm sure it works much like what you guys do. If there's a need to put something on there, you can get that to Bill, and Bill publishes an agenda. So I don't think that it's any different. So what we want to do, and the reason I say it probably won't be on there is Gabe expressed a desire to not have a public negative decision. So we would prefer, just out of respect for that, to avoid a negative. So the option would be then, is instead of us voting it down, would be perhaps to do a counter proposal, but I'd hate for that to go back and forth for 3 or 4 months.
But something has to happen in order for us to move on.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's either maybe a joint work meeting, or we can do a counter proposal and send it back to you for your consideration next month or at a special meeting. And it really is your pleasure. We can go either way.
You could always go 50-50, 25 reserve, 25 tomorrow. So we always be covered. Because reserves aren't getting anything.
Really, I mean, these aren't our rules. These aren't my rules. They're rules and laws that are in place, and we've got to play within them. So, there's a law that states that, it's got to have your approval, it's got to have our approval, and it goes to the district that the project is. I too would actually like to see Reserve get something out of this. But I don't really have the liberty to make that happen.
Done a great job. You guys passed 11 o'clock.
I can't talk for longer than 3 minutes when it occurs.
I would hope that, the school would just, if you want to discuss it and they're not satisfied with that amount, to vote on a counter proposal. They don't need to vote down anything, but they can say, this is what we would counter propose.
So if that's the commission's, you know, if that's a direction that you guys would like to go, then we're certainly happy to do that.
Well, I'm not much of a negotiator. Bucky didn't even want to pass this thing. I say if the school board wants to hold us up, we just all take nothing, the way I look at it.
It's free money for the school.
Yeah, I think it
I
could
mean,
be a
it is
mutually
costing the
beneficial thing.
school absolutely nothing. There's gonna be no added expense to the school with this money that you're getting. And right now, with the 60-40 split, 132,000 a year. That's free money. It doesn't cost you anything. And I'm kind of like Cliff, you know, I think we're being fair with what we've offered. The county's still gonna have road issues. We're still gonna have EMS and fire issues. It's gonna cost the county money. There's gonna be added expense for the county for having the wind farm, and I think 60-40 for 5 years is very fair. I'd like to sit and have a discussion with some of the school board members that don't think that's fair. But if y'all don't like the free money, then
Oh, I think we all like free money.
I mean,
I think the county likes free money, I think the school likes free money, and
I
I
think
think that
there's
we're
a
all funded by tax dollars.
I think
You
there's a
guys are-
point where greed gets to be a little bit too much, and you throw your hands up and say, you know what? This is free money, and if we're gonna bicker over this when it's not costing either one of us anything to get this money from Border Winds, then, you know, throw your hands up.
Well, I would agree, and I would say, if it's not costing either one of us anything, and we've both got a resolution that's got to be passed, then that probably needs to be reflected in the split.
Mr. Nance, Mr. Green, doesn't most of the paperwork, the records keeping, the tracking of all this fall upon the county, isn't that our nickel and our efforts?
That's correct. We're going to do, the county's doing the legal work, the county's doing, the county commission's putting itself out there to do the IRBs. And as Commissioner Han pointed out, the county does have the extra expense of, you know, of roads and everything else. I mean, you are taking on a burden for this, and which is reflected by the offer. You know, this is the additional burden. It's, you know, the money itself is free, but not the burden that comes with the money.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but,
Mr. Lack, oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry, but otherwise we would just assess a property tax, right? And then that would go to the state and we'd get our,
Well, you wouldn't, because, yeah, on a lot of them, yes, but on this one, it's BLM land, so that's what it
right,
does.
so we wouldn't get, nobody'd get anything.
We would-
Yeah, actually, nobody get anything.
But the point that I'm getting at, and no disrespect to you.
No, absolutely not, definitely.
The Kamado school just sits there and collects a check.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so
And we have to fix roads and provide police service.
last week I had to fight my way into a senator's roundtable, you know, Martin and I did, over Wild and Scenic River, which is, for lack of better words, just another litigation stage for gangrene groups, not only to sue county governments and state governments, but to sue individual people to stop them to control. And I had to fight my way in there and sit there, and I had to listen to, there were 12 of us, and there were about 8 people that didn't have a clue what Wild and Scenic River was about. And then there was the proponent of Wild and Scenic River, Nathan Newcomer, and Mark Allison with Municipal Wild. And he made a remark in the meeting that most of the folks in Catron County were supporting. So one of the things I asked him, and I'll get to my point, I asked the senator and Mr. Newcomer how much skin they had in the game. How much investment do they have in property along the San Francisco River and its tributaries? Then there was no answer. They tried to dance around and tell me why they would be a first-time stakeholder. So in the same spirit, talk to your school board. You know, if it were up to me, I think wind energy is a boondoggle. I don't think it provides much energy. I think that eventually, Mr. Lack, it's going to cost you and I a lot of money to pay for it someday. When all of those folks move us into the new green age, as they say. So talk to your board. Ask them to not be too rough-minded, you know. This is an opportunity for the Camado schools. To my way of looking, there's not somebody standing on every corner willing to hand out $130,000, you know, and there are sacrifices being made by people. I've had a couple of your livestock producers up there tell me that they didn't want it. And you know, boy, let me tell you, coming from living here all of my life and being around some of those old timers, it's hard for me to look objectively at the number of people that do and those that don't. Because you know why? The two people that didn't want it have a lot more skin in the game than anybody else does.
I would agree. It definitely affects, because of its geographical location, it definitely affects some people much more than it does others. It's going in on their home, in their backyard. I agree. I would respectfully disagree with you on the my opinion is different on wind energy as opposed to not, but I don't think that.
Well, I'm sorry, you're confused.
I'm young, still learning, so.
Maybe a little confused like Bill Green.
Maybe.
And he got the same place with me in a truck driving about 200 miles. So I'll save us a lot of time. So the point is I'm asking you to talk to your school board and have them understand that we've been working on it. And I think we're offering something fair. Tell them not to be too hard-headed. That's all I'm asking you to do.
And I don't think their intent is to be hard-headed at all. I think their intent is to have a straightforward and honest conversation and to share that information. We recognize that the county's got some skin in the game. It's going to cost the county to do something. There's going to be some additional road. My understanding, the company's building roads, but the county's going to be responsible for maintaining the road. About 5 miles.
And restoring some of it back afterwards.
Okay, so
yeah.
So there's that, and there's going to be office work, and I guess what would help us to be able to look at it clearer would be to understand what those dollar amounts are. I mean, are we talking about another position that's going to have to be hired to manage this? Are we talking about a 50% increase in the county's budget for managing roads? Are we? What are those numbers that we're looking at? Because that would this offer that you're making may be absolutely fair. Help us understand that would be my request. Show us the numbers.
I'll respectfully disagree with you on that. In one respect, you're going to get $130,000 out of this if the deal is that. It's not for me to tell you how it's spent or how to spend it. We're going to get a little more than that at this rate. I don't know why I would have to break it down and qualify how we have to spend that. We have to just decide on who gets what and if we can agree on that. But if you would at least have an action item or a discussion item at the very least, I will be there and try to make sure that one of the commissioners is there for questioning on Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, we'll, so
I would hope it would be an action item, just so you can at least say, we don't agree with that, we would like to suggest this. So it can come back as a clear point of view rather than just, let's talk about things and then we'll agree to talk about it more. I'd rather have something to come back and say, the commission would say, yeah, I agree with that, and it's a done deal. That would be my request. You may not agree with that, that's fine.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'll have to bring our board president on that conversation, and we can determine how to move forward. I'm not against an action item, but I would throw out there that there's 2 resolutions that need to be signed, and both resolutions need to be signed for this project to move forward, and it needs to be a collaborative effort.
I understand.
There's not one resolution that's more valuable than the other.
But collaboration is give and take, and action items are give and take.
Sure.
So we'll either be in agreement next Tuesday, or we'll have it, or it will be thrown back on us to at least either say, okay, we want to talk about this with you guys, or we'll act on it. But we have a special meeting at the end of the month that we're going to have anyway on one item. We just as well I mean, it could possibly be done this month and we're done with it and we're gone.
Okay. And I think our board is open to having a special meeting to move it forward quickly.
Okay, so anyway, we will, I'll be there with one of these people.
Okay.
I'll
Any
forward
other
it.
questions?
No, sir.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Guess we're down to H now.
Yes, and we're
Is it
leaving.
after 11?
Yeah.
Yep.
Consideration of approval of resolution 021, 2020 loan grant for engineering project on the land.
Do we have that resolution?
Do we have that resolution?
Hey,
There's a question on the.
Linda, I don't have that.
It's the one in there that's really thick.
Okay.
I would, once again, I feel like I'm playing the bad guy here. I would just like to caution the county and the commissioners on all these grants. If it's reimbursement grants, that means the county is putting the money up front first and waiting for reimbursement. Right now, we've got a lot of reimbursement grants that we're covering with county money. And I just want to caution the commissioners in the county that we need to be careful because we may not have the money to cover these reimbursements yet. Even if you approve the grant, you just need to be aware that we're already covering a lot of grants right now that are reimbursement, so we're covering it and we have to wait for the money to come back in. We're still waiting for $800,000 from FEMA. If we had that money coming in, we could cover all these grants, but so we just need to be aware, and that's from my accounts payable point of view, I'm looking at the dollar amount. We didn't budget for all this, and so you're still looking at revenue against expenses, and if we're having to cover all these grants out of our own pocket, it's gonna put us into a negative. So that's my only point on these. If it's a DOT grant, the money comes up front, correct?
This is DOT funds.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
No, this is Colonia's funds.
I'm just
This is
saying,
Colonia's
there's
funds.
gonna be more grants coming at you in the future, and I'm just asking the commissioners to look at this, because it's may put us in a bind, that's all I'm
Okay, so
saying.
this is-
Some grants you need to just pass on,
Got it.
is what I'm saying.
This is Colonia's funds dealing with the engineering for the possible paving of the lane. The engineering's done. Once we get the engineering for the project done, we can then proceed with going forward. And the very first step of that will be getting rights from the landowners on the side of the lane, because in order to pave that thing, it has to be broadened. And if they disagree with it, it dies. But this is done with Colonia's funds, and it will be there and to possibly pave this. And that's a highly used road.
So, we have to pay the engineers first,
To do the engineering project.
and then we ask the owners if they'll grant an easement, and if they don't grant the easement, then the engineers get paid and the road stays the same.
What we did, and the reason we went ahead and did this was we were gonna lose these funds. And so we're expending these funds for something that can be very beneficial for us, but they were gonna be lost anyway if we didn't use it.
So, Bill, what is our timeframe to submit this, apply for this? Move forward? How much time do we have before we completely lose?
It's actually,
It's right there on the line.
we're,
This is the last step to get the funds. If
Yeah, we've already gone.
If this isn't approved and you all don't sign it, the funds go away. They're reverted right there.
The last,
But that's not the question I asked. I asked a simple question, and Linda, forgive me, I guess I'm getting hungry.
Just don't bite anything.
Wait, hold on, Bob Louie. I asked, how much time do we have? Do we have a week, 2 weeks, 5 days, 1 day? Do we have a little time? Till the next meeting, till the next commission meeting?
Linda, you will have to answer that question.
Let me just, okay, I'll throw this out there to you. I'm gonna tell you a little story here about Mineral Creek and about acquiring. Quite a lot of engineering was done, a lot of moving forward because we had a lot of emotion on the road, both it and Whitewater. And that's, you know, you see what happens to people and you feel bad and you want to do something as a county legislator. But one of the first lessons you learn is know the knowing about easements. And anymore, we need absolute documented easements to do these roads. So I'm just thinking it might be a good idea to go down through there and poll those folks, quickly explain to them what they're going to benefit from this, how much they're going to lose, and what they're going to get out of it or lose out of this, and find out before we go charging into this thing. Because we had one property owner hold up the whole Mineral Creek engineering process and then had to turn around and go back and you know, negotiate or just pull the plug on him. So we were lucky that we had that section of road was okay and up to date. We haven't, but then we come back and we have a hiccup about fences and cattle guards, and part of the original negotiation was cattle guards on that road and a new fence on that road. So I'm just wanting you to be cautious here before you go to a lot of efforts. You know, maybe, do you know that people are on board, you think?
No, I don't know that people are on board.
Well, Bill,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say, I think that's, I mean, and I've been through a number of these projects, and I think that's actually a really good point. But I think we might have, there's a solution to work through it. I think that's exactly the right point. I mean, the process requires a certification of right-of-way easements. They put my name on it, and I mean, right now I can't sign that unless I know, you know, unless I do an exception and say we don't have it. So I guess what I would suggest would be this, would be to, so we don't miss any deadlines, to approve this with direction to the manager or to the staff, and probably Mark would be the right one, to go and ask these road people, you know, the owners, are you okay with us using this much land? If they are, I'll put that in the certification, the thing can move forward. If they say heck no, then Bill can just put it in the shredder.
That's what I mean, because Mark is one of those guys that has that experience. And I think Mark knows everybody along that lane, and we can cut to the chase with just some sort of simple, you know. I know it's hard to do your job and have to wait and go back and do all this.
You know, the fact is, we were grasping at things that, you know, we're gonna lose this money, what would be the best way to use it? Or do we turn it back? We have other funds that obviously we're turning back because we don't have usage.
And just thinking about it, I'll bet everybody would be pretty much for it, doing it. I think within just a little while. I don't know. And I apologize if I'm.
No, that's.
I think it's a great, no, that's an important point.
Duly noted. I'm fine with that.
So this is Colonia's money. It's something we put in for, I guess. So have we taken a vote to move forward on this before?
We have, this is a project that started when Glenn was still here. Kate, I think Kate was,
So we've kind of gone down the road, and now we're at the point of saying we're gonna put some money in it.
Right, or 10%, we have a 10% match, but the question is whether, I mean, if we go through with this, we sure don't want to be on the hook for everything if the owners of the roadway say, no, you can't move over another inch.
And if we have a special meeting in the next few days over.
And we may not have time for that, but we do have time to say, you know, I approve this contingent upon granting, you know, getting that information from, and if that information is not forthcoming, that this just be considered scrapped.
Yes, so this is really money for engineering.
Yeah, this is not for the road itself. I mean, it's the engineering of the project, but.
So we could engineer the whole thing and then find out McCarty won't give us.
Well, we wanna know that before we turn this into the state, and,
It wasn't budgeted.
So the question that I have about the Colonias money, and I remember this because it was like the second year as commissioner, is that it seemed like every meeting on the Rancho Grande project, the engineers were coming back and needing more money because they didn't budget this or they didn't do that. There's one thing that I wanna understand from those engineers is, are they gonna come back and ask for more money again? Because they did that several times during the Rancho Grande, and I don't wanna deal with that.
They always do come back and ask for more money.
They
It's a
better
given.
have that figure. I know it's free money to the county and it's from the Colonias, but I am not a fan of them coming back and saying, oops, we forgot this, it's gonna
That's
cost
it.
you a little
I
bit
mean,
more.
there is a 10% match involved.
if they forget it, then it's on them. If the information is not there, then yeah, the county pays for it.
And we are qualified, it's within the 150.
And what is the actual amount? Because if it's 10%, what is the actual dollar amount that the county's gonna have to cover? Because once again, I'm saying it was not budgeted for, so you're gonna have to pull that money from somewhere. My question is, where are we pulling that money from?
Good question.
The follow-up question would be, what's the historical repayment time from that funding source?
From the Colonial?
Colonials is actually-
Colonial is actually really good.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
And it says loan, so does that mean we're taking out a loan too?
That's correct, 10%.
It's one of the requirements of Colonias. Yeah.
What is the 10% amount?
How much is it? How much is it?
What's the
How much is
10%
the
amount?
I don't remember, the paperwork does have it in there, I believe.
Total amount of match is $12,205 according to this stuff.
Becky's saying we put the entire amount up front.
Not on Colonial.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
They do?
Yes, you do. All I'm doing is trying to say caution, put caution to the wind here because we just need to be careful. I mean, we've got ourselves spread right now. That's all I'm saying is that before we keep saying, oh, let's do this grant. Grants are wonderful, but only if we can afford to do them. You know, that's all I'm saying.
And the $800,000 all from the FEMA on Mineral Creek, is that right? Is that, or what, not? Is it
I'm
that?
not sure the exact amount,
From
but
that
that's
time
pretty close.
period?
We spent over $1 million on it.
But is it from, is it?
It's
from
not
that
just
time
Mineral
period?
Creek, it's,
From the airport too.
But from that time period?
no, that's not
Airport.
No, it's not Mineral Creek, it's Bursum.
Person.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we will be getting about 4,000 more back from the Glenwood projects, and that was several projects. We haven't seen it yet, but they're telling me that that's what we got.
but Bursum is well over $500,000.
And we haven't been reimbursed for all of
No,
that?
FEMA is,
Slow pay.
dealing with them is just amazing.
FEMA's a nightmare.
So they,
Maybe an agenda item for your Washington trip.
Yeah, visit FEMA.
do we even know if we have any easements on this lane road?
The easements we have belong to the county, up to the fence where the solid waste is, where you take that road to the solid waste. The county
We own that.
owns both sides of that.
Once you get past the yard, there's no problem, but the main thing is McCarty's. If we get an agreement from McCarty's,
Yeah, that's a historical road, I understand, from the highway down here to the yard. Is there any written easements on any of that lane?
I
Probably
don't
not.
believe so.
We're not gonna have written easements, it's going to be, like you say, it's gonna be the historical road, and that's why it's important for this project, you know, if we're going to do any expansion, to make sure that we have, the McCarthy's are good to go with it. If they're not, then you shut it down.
It's gonna be a,
and the reason you have to do that, you have to do the engineering first before you can apply for the Colonias money for the project. You have to have the engineering there to give them in order to even apply for the road.
So we could approve this based off, but get an answer, because if the McCartys say, no, you're not taking 1 inch.
Then we'll just give the
Then you
money
just
back.
throw, well, no, don't even, we just don't turn in the paperwork, we just shred it. The paperwork does not get turned into the state.
That's fair.
Sounds fair to me. Move to approve resolution 021-2020 land grant, loan and grant for engineering project on Foster Lane in reserve contingent upon
Receiving approval from the
Receiving the
landowners
easement.
involved.
receiving the easement approval.
I'll second that.
It's not Foster Lane, it's
The
talking
lane.
about the lane.
Oh, it's just Lane?
It's just the lane.
The
That's all
lane.
it's called.
Lane.
The lane.
Lane Road, really confusing.
Lane.
Lane.
Based on,
The lane.
Foster
He
Road
seconded it.
okay, we got a
advertised for
motion.
construction in.
We got a motion and a second to approve resolution 021-2020 loan grant for engineering project on the lane in reserve. We need to find out about easement before
Turn into the
we
state. That's right, so,
vote, right?
that's correct, and Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest would be is have Mark talk to them, if they're okay with it, I'll draft something up that we can send over, sign it, and we can submit the paperwork. If they're not okay with it, then it goes to the shredder.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Getting the McCarty's be a little tough nowadays. 3 of them involved. I think it's a trust.
Yeah, but they might be a lot easier to do it with now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there would have been no reason to even go with this project if the old man was still alive. Sorry.
All right, approval of checks and registers.
Move to approve the checks and registered as presented.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second to approve checks and registers as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now, motion, roll call vote to go into executive session and pursuant to New Mexico State Statute 10:15-1, only the following matters will be discussed. Pending and threatened litigation, personnel, real estate.
That's it.
That's it.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to enter executive session. All in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Executive session.
The preacher man says it's the end of time, and the Mississippi River, she's a going dry.